thing when the coaching community gets together and is able to just kind of bounce ideas off of each other, able to kind of listen to each other. And I'll tell you this from the jump, guys, man, I'm just a lowly football coach, just trying to make it like the rest of us. And kind of what I'm going to do tonight is I've got a short presentation on game planning. I've got a lot of key topics, a lot of hot points that I'm going to go through. And like Coach said, if you've got anything, I love being interactive. I'm a teacher by heart, so I love kids interacting in my classroom, just like you guys. I want y'all to interact. Anything that you want me to go in depth with in the middle of the presentation, I'm more than welcome to answer that. I am an open book. I firmly believe that everything that I've done is I've stolen from the best minds in the business. And so that's basically what I'm showing you is all my loot that I've taken from everybody. So I'm gonna go and get us started. I'm gonna go and share my screen real quick. Make sure that I'm good with that. Boom. Y'all don't need to see my Twitter, that's for sure. All right, make sure. If I'm not good, go ahead and tell me, Coach Bronk, and I'll just move on from here. All right. So kind of my agenda for tonight is I'm going to talk about my philosophy and structure in game planning. I'm going to minimize that so it's not in my way. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I look at Basedowns and how we break down Basedowns and the game planning side of it, and when we do that, as far as the timeline is concerned. And then we're going to look at how I picture third downs and how we as a staff look at those and break those down. And then the time that we spend on specials, Penn Tens, and landmarks. To me, I know that that's in a totally different font and a different kind of structure right there, format, but it's because I think for who I am and what we do in our system, I think that's what makes us special. And so I'm definitely going to spend some time on Penn Tens and landmarks and so forth. So let's get into it, the philosophy and structure of things. So when I got to, I guess, as my first year as a head coach at Gibson County, I started out thinking I could conquer the entire world, and my game planning, my structure of that, as far as breakdowns and so forth, was just all over the charts. It was all off the wall. It really took me about 6 years to kind of get to a point where I could streamline how I want to break down and how I want to game plan for a certain team or certain opponent. And that actual kind of narrowing it down and fine detailing things has allowed me to actually take that and run with it in other areas, not just in game planning opponents in a season. So it got fine-tuned and really refined in my first year at Bethel. I had the privilege of working for Brent Dearman. I played against him in college, and then had the opportunity to get really close to him when he was at Arkansas Tech, when he was recruiting, when I was there in a private school in Arkansas, and then got the opportunity to join his staff in 2018, and being able to see his mind work and to see how he was able to take an opponent from the way we broke it down category wise and structure wise and be able to put together a game plan was really eye-opening for me. It was a situation that I was able to see how he could compartmentalize certain formations, certain fronts, certain coverages, and be able to put it all into a comprehensive game plan. And so what we do with the first thing for our organization to be efficient with our game plan is we have certain breakdown categories. I am not a hash guy. I do not worry about breaking down the hashes. When we break it down, of course, you've got your main breakdown categories, which are your down distance. You've got your gain loss, all that jazz. But for us, what we will do is we will do down distance, we will do formation, motion, and we will do coverage, front, blitz, and or pop. And how I consider blitz or pop is this: a pop is a one-man pressure. So if they're bringing a safety, if they're bringing the rover safety, if they're bringing the Sam nickel linebacker, if they're bringing the Mike, the Will, it's a one-man pressure. Blitz is anything, a combination pressure. So it could be an ammo blitz where you're getting a double Mike Will blitz into the A gaps. It could be a bullets from those two guys. It could be a double edge pressure. It could be a boundary blitz where they're bringing the rover safety and Will linebacker. Anything where they're bringing more than one person is considered a blitz for us. And and as far as coverage wise, we break down coverages in very simple terms. I don't use 42, 24, quarter, half, anything like that. We are a field boundary team, as most of your power spread RPO teams are. We're a field boundary team. And so how we will break down our coverages is we will break it down into the field coverage breaks down into key or palms. Key coverage for us is the Sam nickel linebacker as the D-gap run fitter. You guys have seen a lot of Coach Bronk's stuff where he's talking about reading the D-gap run fitters and stuff on Twitter. And so we will ID who the D-gap run fitter is right there. If it is a Sam nickel linebacker, that is a key coverage for us. If it is palms coverage, it ends up being the rover. It ends up being the free safety, which is the field safety for us. That's how we categorize that. And therefore, the Sam nickel linebacker is going to be more head up to outside leverage of the number two receiver. And a lot of times in high school ball, what we see in our area is we see a lot of key coverage. They like to play that Sam nickel linebacker apex between number two and the tackle. And so, but at the end of the day, when we talk about split field coverages, it's the field coverage is only key or palms. Then when we get into the boundary, we break it down into four categories. The first one is, which is an easy one, is just four. So we consider four to be where the rover safety and the corner or the boundary corner are both on the same level. When we see the next coverage is cover two, we see that where the corner and the safety are at different levels. The corner's down low, the safety's high. Invert is they're at different levels, but now the rover safety is down low, and the corner is higher. And then, of course, the fourth one would be press, where you're getting a press alignment from the corner right there, and the rover is being able to fit in the box off the tight end or the H-back. But how we delineate that or denote that is we will type in that breakdown, we will type in key four, or we'll type in key press, or we'll type in palms two, whatever it may be. We're going to type in that coverage so that when we're breaking things down, and I'll talk about it in as far as base coverages are concerned, but when we're talking about our base formations, when we break it up into base twins, we know that based off their tendency, they are a key four team, or they are going to treat our base twins as a palms four team. But that is how we delineate it. If it's a middle field close coverage, of course, we can get into all the details of three field, three strong, three rob, however we want to delineate that. But we end up calling it basically a three, and determining how they're fitting it off the safeties. From there, of course, that is the coverage breakdown. The front breakdown stuff, as far as fronts are concerned, I use the old, I guess you could say, what's this thing name, just retired from TCU, Gary Patterson stuff. Over G, under, over. Don't necessarily call it the tight G like he would, or the tight, not the tight, field G. Don't necessarily call it that. Do use under, over. We will also use, as far as we delineate odd front stuff. Anything odd is considered 404 or outside of that. So if we get a 404, we get 505, that's all considered odd for us. We do not delineate, we do not designate or divide that up. The only time it changes for us is when we get the tight front, the 4 eyes on both the tackles. And we will denote that in the breakdown stuff. The other stuff, as far as just the structure side of it, I can go into it more depth if you've got more questions on it. But the big point that you need to understand as far as breakdowns are concerned, when we start getting into organizing it, is with the breakdown categories, we try not to put too much stuff into our information and data sheets that overload us. We really just want to get a snapshot and an identification and a picture of the defense that we're going to see against the certain scenarios that we're breaking down. And so how we break it down structure wise is we break it down for our call sheet. And so the first part of it, the front sheet of my call sheet is my base my base formations that I'm going into that game with. We have roughly 18 to 20 formations in the system. And of course, they're ever evolving. You're seeing things that you want to add in, unbalanced stuff, all that jazz. But as far as when you're looking at formation wise in the system, we have 18 to 20. From there, those 18 to 20, I'm not going to carry 18 to 20 formations into a game. Depending on the fronts that I'm going to be seeing, that's going to determine what formations that I'm going to put into the game plan. For instance, if I'm seeing more of odd front, tight front stuff, I'm going to be a lot more 11 personnel, 21 personnel, and 12 personnel heavy. I have gone into game plans, and I have been a part of staff that have gone into game plans in this system where we have not even carried any 20 personnel stuff against tight front or odd front stuff. And it's just because at the end of the day, we didn't like the matchup. We didn't like the angles for the run game, anything of that nature. It just wasn't beneficial for us base formation wise. And so the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to look at our base downs. And then I'll get more into base downs in just a second. Then the next thing is we're going to look at the backside of the call sheet. The backside of the call sheet consists of all my third down scenarios, and it also consists of my PNT, my landmarks. The backside there is, and again, I'll go more in depth with third downs and landmarks, so you'll see kind of how those things are broken down. And then the last one that I'm going to look at is Penn Tens. And when we talk about Penn Tens are your drive starters. I'm going to carry roughly 8 to 10 drive starters a game. I'm expecting to have a lot more drives than needed. At the end of the day, you guys know as well as I do, in a calling scenario, I'm going to end up getting a really good feel for the game. And some of my base down stuff, some of my base formation plays are going to end up being some drive starters because I know that they're really good against what I'm seeing. So as far as the philosophy and structure for us, we are going on Sundays, which are our main game planning days. We're going to handle all of our base formations. That's going to be the big brunt of the day that we spend there. After we finish our base formations, we're going to make sure that all the third down and landmark stuff is entered in and put into huddle, so that on Monday after practice, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk third downs and landmarks, because on Tuesday's practice, that's when we're going to start practicing our third downs. So Monday is always a base practice for us. Tuesday is always a third downs practice for us, and we will end up hitting some of the high landmarks at the end of practice on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, we're going to hit all of our third downs. We're going to hit our Penn Tens, and we're going to hit all of our landmarks. And then that way, at the end of the day, we've covered all of our scenarios Monday through Wednesday. And then Thursday is just a turbo Thursday for us, where we're able to clean it up. I'm not getting into a game week prep, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. So let's talk about base downs. First of all, the first thing that we're going to do after we've got all the information entered into huddle, we're going to we're going to put them in, and of course we with our formations we are one word formations. So for example, we are twins, queens, kings, deuce, trey, just one word formation. And based on the teams that we're seeing that week, we are going to categorize the formations that that defense is seeing based off of our formation. Just as anybody would, we're going to name it that, even though it may be an altered look, even though it may be, we may be seeing, they may be kind of going against a bastardized wing T look, where it ends up being very similar to our Kings personnel. We're going to label that as Kings for us, Kings formation, so that we can kind of get an idea of what that defense does to that personnel and that sort of formation. But once we get all that entered in, we create playlists and playlists and cut-ups of just our base formations. So base twins, base kings, base deuce, all that stuff. And what we'll do is we will take, and when we're game planning, we're going to look at each one of those base cut-ups, and we're going to see if we can truly identify what that defense is and who they are against that particular base formation. If we can identify who that is, then what we're going to do is we're going to consider us be able to have a pretty good base game plan for that team. If we cannot determine who they are, if they are all off the wall, front wise, coverage wise, whatever, if they look like they're just trying to grab bag just to defend that formation, then we're not going to put that into our base downs. That may be a formation that we use in a Penn Ten or a landmark situation, because we feel like that defense may not have a good read on that formation. But for our base downs, we're not going to use that. And going into that, our base downs are any of our first and second downs. So when you look at that first part of my call sheet, that first and second down stuff, when I'm on first and second down, I'm only staying on the first part of that page. I'm not flipping it over to my backside of my sheet. I'm only looking at the formations and the plays that I have for those first and second downs. I know defenses are starting to try to throw wrinkles in, to throw off tendencies on first and second downs. Well, so do offenses. It's the name of the game. It's just what we do as football coaches. But at the end of the day, who you are is who you're going to be on first and second down. Then next thing, of course, as I said, we're not going to keep the formations just to keep formations. If we don't have a peg on a certain team, on a certain opponent defensively, on who they are against one of those base formations we have, we're not going to put anything in that game plan that just to have it in. To me, as far as your base downs are concerned, that is not where you want to be in a scenario where you just want to put something on film. You put something on film in a Penn Ten or something like that. You don't do that on your base downs. Your base downs are things that keep you ahead of the sticks, that keep you in a position as a play caller to have the upper hand. You don't ever want to get yourself in a position where you're having to play behind the chains in a sense. And so we're not going to keep formations in our base down game plan just to keep them. And we're not going to carry everything. There will be weeks that we carry certain formations that we hadn't shown the entire season. There'll be weeks that we've shown something all season and we won't carry that next week just because it doesn't fit what we're wanting to do base-wise. Which ties into the last point that I put in there. We're only going to install that on that Monday what we see on film. I can't emphasize enough that don't build castles on sand. Don't build imaginary castles in the sky. However you want to picture, whatever metaphor you want to use, whatever you see on film, that is what you have got to game plan for. That is what you've got to install that week to defend. You can't. I'm a firm believer that that if you have, as a coach, have a firm grasp on the defense and the opponent that you're facing, then you're going to have a lot more confidence in installing it to your kids, which is then going to allow your kids to feel confident, and they're going to play a lot more efficient and a lot more effective on Friday night because of the confidence that you've instilled in them all week. When we get into Monday night and we start looking at our third downs and we start breaking down our third downs, I break down our third downs into these sections. The first one is 3rd and 1 to 2. 3rd and 1 to 2, of course, is your short yardage. As far as us, we're going to have certain formations that are going to be a little bit more heavier in package. Your 12, your 21 personnel stuff. Don't be surprised if we end up getting into a 22 personnel type situation, just to have something 3rd and short. But the biggest thing that I like about 3rd and 1 to 2 is I'm going to put in one shot in a 3rd and 1 to 2. So I saw a couple of coaches on here from West Tennessee, and just be prepared that on 3rd and 1 to 2, at some point in the game, you're going to get that I'm going to have on my call sheet one shot where you're expecting us to just try to go get a first down, but I'm fixing to call a shot right there. And by shot, I mean, I'm not looking for a 10 to 15 yard play. I'm looking for a touchdown out of it. And so I'm always going to devise one shot in 3rd and 1 to 2. In third and 3, I'm going to have a form of a play action. 3rd and 3, and a lot of people will consider 3rd and 1 to 3 as just your 3rd and short. I like to, and I learned it from, again, Brent Dearman. I'm a stealer of everything because of how his mind worked, but he loved 3rd and 3. His 3rd and 3 was a mixture of some play action. It was a mixture of a lot of different things that, with motions and different things of that nature, just to give you an advantage. We always said this. We said that whatever run you had and whatever runs you put in 3rd and 3, you could easily carry them into a 3rd and 1 to 2, because if you see them as getting you a first down in 3rd and 3, they're going to get you a first down in 3rd and 1 to 2. So at the end of the day, it's a carryover. But the reason I've learned to separate that is because it gives me another category to try to put in a play that may end up being a big momentum play for us. 3rd and 4 to 6, that's where I'm going to end up carrying a few RPOs. I firmly stand on the RPO side of it. I'm a big RPO guy, finding ways to put those conflict defenders in conflict. Not going to spend any time talking about RPOs today. Bronk will be a lot better guy to talk about it than me. But at the end of the day, that 3rd and 4 to 6 section, that's where I'm going to carry some RPOs. I'm going to put those guys in that maybe trying to defend some type of quick game, or maybe trying to defend some type of perimeter run, or even some of our inside runs that have been hitting really well, put them in some conflict to be able to get us a first down and maybe make some big play out of that. 3rd and 7 to 10, I'm going to end up putting in some type of screen. Got a lot of different screens that we use in the system, but we are going to match a screen out of some formation, some run package that we have had in, that we've got in a base down. And you ask, why do you put it in with a run package? Is because a couple of our screens are based off of some run action. And so I feel like that if we're able to give some type of, in a 3rd and 7 situation, is a great time for us to be able to give a run action there that turns into a hard D-line pressure. D-line, they may end up giving us some type of blitz, some boundary blitz in the situation. And of course, when we look at the breakdown side of it, we're going to end up seeing who they are on those 3rd downs. I did not say this, and I'll go back and say it, but each one of these categories, that's how, when we take our base or play bank for the opponent, where we've taken three films and we've said all of their defensive plays in that play bank, we're going to then highlight all the 3rd and 1 to 2, 3rd and 1s, 3rd and 2s, and create a playlist of 3rd and 1 to 2. Same thing with each one of these categories. And so therefore, each one of these times, just like we did with our base formations, we're going to ID what they are, who they are, and what they like to do in those certain scenarios. And then 3rd and 11 plus, if you spend a lot of time in 3rd and 11 plus, you're spinning your wheels. At the end of the day, it's just managing that down. You got to, it's going to be a game time scenario on how you want to attack that 3rd and 11 plus. Are you going to go for it? Do you need to get that first down because of the time on the clock, because of whatever the scenario may be, or you just want to get it in the situation where you can make it a manageable 4th down so that you can go for it on 4th down. I think that is just kind of your preference as a coach, as a play caller, what you want to do and how you want to manage 3rd and 11 plus. We usually just carry one play from each section of the field, left hash, right hash, and middle, and 3rd and 11 plus, and it's one of them that we really like, that we feel like will be able to get us a first down if need be. But going back to, like I said in the other one, do not see pink elephants in your cut-ups, in your playlists. Whatever you see in the cut-ups is what you need to plan for. And if you see it, you got to plan for it. If they're a team that, even though they're 33% bear in the 3rd and 1 to 2, you got to plan for bear. I mean, you need to have 50% of your plays need to be planned for bear, because at the end of the day, if that 3rd and 1 that you need to get that first down to keep a drive going, to be able to sustain and keep yourself in a ball game, they show up in bear and you don't have a plan for it, then all of a sudden you're freaking screwed. And so if you see it, you better plan for it. I've always lived a lot more conservative in planning and game planning in that sense. If we've seen that a team is 30% or better in one particular front, even though they may not show it 70-80% of the time, but they show it at least 30% of the time, we're going to plan heavily to make sure all of our plays in that particular section are able to work against that particular front. Because at the end of the day, we just don't want to get caught with our pants down, and we want to make sure that our guys have a chance to be successful. Then once we get through with that, the 3rd down stuff, then this is where I get away from the technical side of allowing the staff to get into the game planning side. From the base game plan to the 3rd downs, the staff really gets involved in the game planning side of it. When we get into our specials, the landmarks and the Penn Tens, that's where me as a play caller, that's where I get to use my flair. That's where I get to use what I want to do to be able to create the momentum and create the situations in the game that I want. So how we do it, my whole reasoning behind landmarks is this. Landmarks are the ability for us as a team to create explosive plays. When we cross, and it kind of ties in the field breakdown, when we cross the 50-yard line, I have a specific coach designed to be looking at the landmarks that I have put in for that week, that he is in my ear saying, hey, coach, you got this shot on the 45-yard line, or we get down to the 30-yard plus 30, coach, you got this shot right here from the left hash. I'm going to have a shot to the end zone at every point in the plus territory. I'm not going to be a type that my landmarks are not things that are just, hey, let's get a 10, 15-yard play. When I say landmarks, I'm saying we are taking shots to the zone. We are trying to put points on the board right now in one play and put a dagger in somebody's heart. And when you do that, my whole reasoning behind planning in landmarks is it creates an exciting atmosphere for the players. It creates a mentality in your players that, hey, we've gotten the ball into a positive territory. Now it's time to cut the throat. Now it's time to do what we do best, and it's time to put the pedal to the metal, and let's create some excitement in this game. And you know, at the end of the day, you may miss on landmarks. You may have a cue that throws a beautiful ball and the receiver just daggum drops it. Or you may have a receiver that freaking breaks wide open and the Q can't even get it to him. It just freaking happens. I mean, I'm dealing with high school football players. It's just how it is. But at the end of the day, that's not going to deter me from drawing up, devising up landmarks to create explosiveness for our kids, because that is one of our core values for our program is explosive big plays. As far as field breakdown goes, we are going to break it down into really right hash, left hash, and middle. My play call sheet has 3 columns, and it breaks down. It starts at the plus 45, and it works all the way down to the plus 5. Every 5 yards, I've got shots. And when I start getting inside the 25, 30, depending on the game, depending on how bad I want to try to put up points on somebody, how bad I want to beat somebody's ever 11 breaks out, I may have 3 to 4 there. Everywhere else is going to have about 2. From the 45 to about the 35, 30 is going to have 2 shots from each one of those field breakdowns, 45, 40, 35, 30, right hash, middle, left hash. And when I look at those landmarks, I'm going to look at what formations have we done in our base, what formations, what specific plays do I want to put on. This is a time where I get to put something on film, because at the end of the day, I want somebody to be able to see, oh man, when they get inside the 25, you better be prepared for this. Well, at the end of the day, that means that somebody's fixing to have to game plan for that, have to try to stop it. I'm taking them away from having to stop our inside zone power and counter. And so this is one of the areas where I get to put stuff on film that I want to put on film. And I'm the third point right there, considering the tendencies, I'm going to the next playlist that my staff puts together is from that base play bank with the yard line. They're gonna hit from the 45 all the way down to the 5 and check every one of those little check boxes besides that yard line, and they're going to create a playlist of that. And then I'm going to watch that through 5 to 6 times, just getting a feel for what they like to do, how they tighten up, how they change, what yard line do they change it, from going from a more of a base defense into my back's against the wall defense. I've got to find a way to stop this drive. And so where at point do they start giving me a little bit more pressure, and all that jazz. That's how I'm going to watch that through, and I'm going to consider tendencies, so that at the end of the day, when I see that they from on the plus 20, that is when they're gonna change into a man-free team, and they're gonna change into a straight up cover 0 team, and they're gonna bring ammo pressure. I can tell you multiple times, scouting teams at the collegiate level when I was at Bethel, we got some really good tendencies on teams. We'd have teams that were a lot more interior pressure teams. They'd bring ammo, they'd bring bullets, bring ammo, gut cross, where they cross those 2 inside linebackers. Or we'd see teams that were a boundary blitz team. They would bring that was when they'd bring a cat, a boundary corner off the edge, or their team that team was the team that would bring the wheel and the rover into boundary blitz stuff, and then they'd stunt defensive end, trying to do different things, all that jazz. But based on what we saw tendency wise and what I saw tendency wise as far as landmarks concerned, that was going to be where I wanted to take into consideration and attack how I wanted to attack. Make sure my Q was protected when I was throwing the shot, but also make sure that we knew that play wasn't just going to be able to answer a blitz, but it was going to be able to answer a blitz in the sense that, man, maybe we shouldn't blitz in that situation because they just freaking ended in the end zone. And so that is how we look at landmarks. Let me look at this chat real quick, see if I've got Then let's see here. Let me click back on it. Right there. All right. Penn Tens. This is where I like to spend. I'll spend a little bit more time on that because this is an area that between my second and third year at Bethel, this is an area that I really grew in. Had never heard the term Penn Tens until I got to under Brent Dearman, and it was there that I started seeing how he looked at Penn Tens, and then it was between my second and third years there when I was really starting to look into game planning heavily as a college OC, how I wanted to and what my philosophy was going to be with Penn Tens. And so, again, this is one that I do personally. I don't get the staff involved in it. I tell them what we're going to do and I show them what we're going to do, but I don't get the staff input in it. This is who I am as a play caller. Your Penn Tens are your drive starters. They are your ones that you come off of the sideline with. They are the ones that get a series going. And so the philosophy for me behind the Penn 10, it goes into these kind of four things. The first one is this. This is where I'm going to put some stuff on film. This is where I have an opportunity to remind. I've got my assistant coaches in there in that sideline structure, in that sideline huddle. Because, again, we're a no-huddle team. So that's the only time we huddle is on the sideline coming off. So this is an opportunity for my assistant coaches to give any little reminders about the specific play that we're running out there, and that put the stuff on film play. This will be a time where I go a certain unbalanced formation. This will be a time that I put in that I may sugar huddle out of something. This could be anything that I wanted to do to make a defensive coordinator say, what the freak are we going to do against this? Or we just got to have a plan against this. And that Penn 10 may never see the light of day the rest of the season. But I'm going to put some stuff on film just to piss off a DC. The second thing is I'm going to create confident throws for my Q. I picked up this from talking with a guy that was one of Chad Morris's analysts. They did a study at SMU, and they talked about how much more efficient they were ending in the end zone when their drive starter started with a Q, a throw that was a completion on his Penn 10. And so I started thinking about that. And in 2019, we were not very good on Penn 10s. And I vowed we were going to be a lot better in the spring 2021 season on Penn 10s on drive starters. And so one thing that I did was I took that philosophy. I said, well, if that's what we're going to do, then I'm going to make sure that when I put together this list of Penn 10s, I'm going to have 3 to 4 plays that are just throws that my Q feels very confident in, that he feels like he can complete no matter what. They're almost going to be like day 1, day 2 install stuff for my Q. And this will be one of the times that I actually ask any input from anybody else on Penn 10, and I'll ask my Q's input. I'll say, all right, hey, what throws do you feel the most confident in? Looking at our base game plan, or looking at something that we've done from install wise. And it's from there that I'm going to be able to kind of put together those confident throws for him. I also see as confident throws any quick game, anytime you can get it to a guy in a bubble, anytime you can get the ball out of the Q's hands quickly, it allows him to be confident. And so those are going to be some things that I put into some Penn 10s just to help us with the momentum and get the drive started right, which allows then my Q to get into rhythm. Because here's the thing about it. This is what clicked for me when I talked with that analyst that was at SMU, was that when the Q got rolling on that first play, and he was able to throw that play, complete that ball, that was just a confidence builder. What I saw was that the 3rd and 6, the 3rd and 7 play that you have later on in that drive, the Q has already got a foundation on that time on the field, that series on the field, that he can find a way to get that ball completed. And so he's got a foundation of confidence to be able to complete that particular throw that you may need that is a dire situation. Whereas the Penn Tens, not as much of a dire situation. At the end of the day, just puts you behind, may put you 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 8. But at the end of the day, if you're able to get that guy to be able to throw that, to make that throw, and he's able to put you in 2nd and 7 or 2nd and 5, now when it's 3rd and 7 and you need him to complete a 10-yard dig or a corner route, whatever it may be, then he's going to have that confidence that he can complete that. And he's also going to have that sense of rhythm and that sense of feel for the game because he's gotten it out of his hands so quick. And, you know, at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that when you look at Penn Tens and you look at putting stuff on film, you look at the unique plays and formations that you want to put on there. What you do not want to do is you just don't want to overload the kids. I've always called it within our staff that we could always have the Disney Imagination Station in here and draw up anything under the sun. But at the end of the day, is that unique play, that unique formation, whatever you're wanting to put on film, is it simple enough where your guys can get 3 to 5 reps in a game week to be able to be successful on that play? Because at the end of the day, that's probably all the amount of reps that they're going to get. When you include a walkthrough, when you include your Turbo Thursday, and you include the Wednesday practice, they're probably going to get at max 5 reps of that Penn 10. You want to make sure that they know what they have, what they're doing, and that when they come off of the sideline, that they're not still questioning, oh my goodness, all right, so I've got this guy, I've got this. You don't want them questioning anything. You want them, at the end of the day, stepping on that field with a sense of confidence, with a sense of urgency and a sense of enthusiasm in what they're doing, because that's going to make the difference in the world. And at the end of the day, you know, you have good Penn Tens, it helps you as a play caller. It's a lot easier to call a 2nd down play when it's 2nd and 5 or 2nd and 3. It puts you ahead of the sticks, it puts you ahead of the chain. And you have a lot, statistics just show that you have a lot higher percentage of getting that first down. And if you're able to get that first down, then you start getting that train rolling, and you can put a drive together, or you can take a shot and dag up in the zone. And that's where we all want to end up as offensive coaches, and end up in the end zone, handing the ball to the referee and not the other team. So, you know, as far as Penn Tens go, that's kind of my philosophy. That's kind of how I look at Penn Tens. That's how I look at our drive starters. And, you know, I've just put my contact information up here. Guys, I know that probably there was a lot of stuff that I said that I may have rambled on, that I may have just talked about just inconsistently or whatever, but I can tell you that from the structure and the organization that we have with our game plan and stuff, the way we break it down into our base downs, our third downs, our landmarks, our Penn Tens, and the way we break down those specific sections within those subsections, that it allows for us to be a lot more efficient with our meeting time. We don't have a lot of guys sitting around just trying to just spitball off the wall. We start after the first few weeks, the guys that may not have been in the system that start getting in it, they start realizing, all right, this is what we're trying to do. This is how we're trying to do this. We don't like power out of this formation, but we do like it out of this formation because this is the defense that we're seeing. This is the front that we're seeing. We don't like this RPO again out of this formation, but we like it out of this formation because this is the coverage that we're seeing. This is the gap run fitter that we want to pick on. And they start getting a lot more pointed with how they give their input, and it becomes a lot more efficient. Your game planning meetings that go for 4.5 hours or 2.5 hours get brought down to your base game plan meeting may only last an hour to hour and a half, because everybody's on the same page. They know what we want to do, and they know where we want to go with it, which then allows for you to have more time to do the things that you need to do, whether it be with family, whether it be with any other odds in jobs that you got to take care of. But it really allows for efficiency in game planning, which is one of the main reasons that I love the process that we have. So I'm gonna open it up to questions, Bronk. If I need to go into any more depth, any more detail, stuff like that. I saw Coach Addison put in the chat, prefer buck sweep or outside zone. So I'll answer that question. Just on that note, I guess you could say I'm a Dearmanite. I am not an outside zone guy. I'm very much more of a buck sweep guy. I think buck sweep allows you to have the ability to attack the perimeter that you need to attack. Outside zone, Schiffman will kick my butt for saying this, but outside zone for me, I have just never had a good enough running back to be a really good outside zone guy. I feel like you can kind of teach any running back how to take this specific path and how to get his shoulders downhill now on buck sweep. Outside zone, may have overcoached it, may have tried to do too many details on it, may have not had the right aiming point, all that jazz, which may have hindered me not having the right back. But at the end of the day, I'm a lot more of a buck sweep guy than I am an outside zone guy. So that answers that question. So Bronk, I'm gonna turn it over to you, let you field questions.
All right. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? You can put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself.
I see my man J.R. Kirby in here.
Schiffman wanted me to tell you he apologizes, but his computer crashed. So I told him, I said, with all the
tell
money
that man to get
with all the money he makes, he needs to buy himself a computer.
Tell that man to get a new charging cord for that computer. That's for thinking sure.
So, anybody have any questions?
Man, that means I answered everything that they had in the world. That means I'm gonna tell you what, there's gonna be a lot of points scored in this group right here this year, man. There's gonna be a lot of freaking points scored. Guys, Bronk, I'll let you finish, but I'll just do my last 2 cents. Guys, I appreciate it so much. If you need anything, that's why I put my contact information up there. If you need anything, Bronk will tell you that I'm an open book, and I am able to do whatever I can to help coaches out, because that's the only successes that I've ever had is because coaches have helped me out. I'm a very transparent guy. I got in this business to be a minister to young men, and which allows me to be a minister to other men in the profession. So anything that I can do to help you guys out, reach out. Y'all go have some great spring ball. And so, I got some questions.
There you go. From Coach Frazier, do you game plan for goal
line? That is my 5 yard. That's my +5. That is just considered my one of my landmark areas. And when I look at our goal line stuff, it is just straight up considered landmarks, or it is my base down stuff. I don't have a specific spot on my call sheet for goal line stuff. It's those 2 to 3 plays within the +5 area.
Okay, and then we have another one. With having the shots lined up every 5 yards, do you repeat the plays at different yard lines, or is there different shots for every different yard line on the sheet?
Great question. So how I do it is there may be the same shot at the same yard line, but they're never the same shots carried over down further down so whatever shots I have at the +40, I do not have the same shot at the +30 or the +25. Now, I may end up dressing it up, window dressing it in a different way, formation in a different way, but for the most part, I do not carry the same shot. My shots I've got probably a play bank of about 35 to 40 different shots that I can dress up different ways. And so now I will say this, some of those shots that I may not get to use in a specific game get carried over to the next week. But they are not the same shots at different yard lines. They are definitely different ones.
Awesome. Great questions. Anybody else have a question they want to shoot to Coach? I will reiterate what Coach Cruce just said. We developed our friendship about 3 years ago.
Yes,
I met Coach like I did with a lot of coaches when the whole COVID lockdown started, and it started doing these coaching clinics online, and Coach had the honor and privilege of coaching under Coach Dearman. I got a chance to know him, and then through him, I got to know Coach Cruce. I can tell you right now what he said is true. He is an open book because we've had many conversations before, and he has shared a great deal of things, and bouncing ideas off of one another. So I recommend you guys reaching out to him because I think he's a great resource. Before we close out here, if no one else has any questions, I am going to be, once this is done, and I will upload this into the Power Spread-RPO Offense YouTube channel, which I have. You can, if you want to just search for that. That way you can go back and look. It's also got previous year's content in there. There was a segment where Coach Dearman actually did a segment on RPOs, and other coaches as well. I'll have one of the dreaded defensive coaches on here every once in a while to talk about how they defend what we do. But I recommend you guys checking that out if you want to be able to watch this again and kind of pull some things out of there. So, Coach, do you have any final words before we close up?
No, sir. I appreciate it, brother. Thanks for all you do for the coaching community and for the opportunity to speak tonight, man.
Absolutely. It was a privilege and honor. Coaches, thank you very much again for joining us. You can always reach out to Coach Cruce. He's at Coach Cruce on Twitter. Or you can also reach out to me on Twitter at Coach Bronk if you have any questions about tonight. So, but if you guys don't have anything else, that's all for tonight. We appreciate you guys joining us. You all have a great one. We'll see you.